I think like most of the people that I sort of interacted with over the course, they were a lot more motivated. They were a lot more strategized versus say what I was. What I tried to do was try to take the best parts. Like I was trying to learn as much as possible. I knew that at a point, if I find my motivation myself, given that like I'd done it for CA where you are, sitting in one place and like studying for 5 months. So I was like, if I'm able to find that rhythm again at the end, once I know the basic concepts, I will be able to sort of get through with this exam. Over the last 2 months, I'd say at least the weekends I'd give like at least 6 to 8 hours a day.
Right.
Given that I was a CA, giving those 6 to 8 hours is something that you're trained for while you're preparing for your CA exam. So like it's not very tough sometimes for you to sort of switch it up and like say that now I study for 8 hours a day.
Right.
So weekends were like 6 to 8 hours, and during the weekdays I'd say I try and give an hour in the night or early in the morning, something like that. So that was how I like practiced overall. And
First of all, it's been a while since you got this score, and I wish we could have gotten earlier to this conversation. But big congratulations. The
thank you so much.
entire journey has not been like straightforward. We both know about it. So we'll talk
Yeah. It was a pretty long journey
a
overall.
long journey. And but then I think it's all worth it because you are looking at a fantastic score of a 99 percentile. Look at that, gleaming 91 percentile in quant, 94 percentile in verbal, and 98 percentile in data insight, summing to a 99 percentile overall.
Yeah, I'm
So
still not very proud of my quant percentile, but yes.
and I know why, and we'll talk about it as well.
Yeah.
What we can do is, you can go about telling about yourself, specifically about your background, and given that your background, what seemed to have been more easier for you when you started off the GMAT journey, and how long this the entire duration took place, what exactly stood out, what were the reasons why, the duration was it took this long, or even if it is short or long, however it is, just talk about that. We'll cover it in segments, but let's start with this journey of you. How did you, what are the things that you thought when you started off doing an MBA? Why MBA, in fact, after, being a qualified chartered accountant?
Sure. So let me take the first question, right? Like why an MBA? Basically, I wanted to sort of get experience, like get international work experience, which was why I like decided to pursue an MBA. To be honest, I was not very sure whether I'd pursue one, not pursue one. I was like, let me get a score first, and then let me see if I'm eligible to get an MBA where I'd want to go. So that's how the journey started, and I started somewhere in March or April of last year, I think. So I think like initially because I was not the most motivated compared to others who were like would you see, were very keen on doing an MBA, it took me a little more time. So I was pretty much preparing for almost 6 odd months. And I was like I could only give weekends because of my work schedules, and that too over weekends, like it was a little tough initially to give like, both the weekend days. So I slowly and steadily stepped it up sort of like I for the first 3 or 4 months, I guess I was like really slow. And that too, like I started off doing reading comprehension. And for somebody who had not done any English language for at least 10 years, it was like a nightmare in the beginning. So like the motivation levels were pretty low at that point. So, and then finally, to be honest, like what motivated me the most was my top 1% course was coming to an end at a point. So 2 months before that, I was like, Janit, now you need to step it up. And now you finally need to at least give it one shot and see where you're landing and then decide if you want to go ahead with the GMAT, like with GMAT or not. So that's how I did it. Like 2 months before, I decided to give it as much as I could. And I was able to, like, I had 1 month after I'd completed my top 1% course for practice.
Right.
And in that 1 month, I tried to practice as much as I could. Like, whatever time I got, I was just practicing. Finally, I had like a week before the exam where I took, like, where I had leaves from work. And that's when, like, I gave, like, I'd say 5 or 6 odd mocks. Like,
Right.
I was pretty much giving a mock a day. And that's how in my first attempt, I got a 685. And after that, I was confused because 685 is sort of, I'd say, an above average score, but not like the best score.
Right.
So I was confused whether I should give another attempt or not.
Right.
And I hired an MBA consultant, and that consultant was like, just give it another shot. Maybe you get a better score, maybe you don't. So
Right.
finally decided to give another attempt in January. And that's where like I was able to get the score and like worked really well for me. If I have to say what was tough in the beginning and what was tough while I actually gave the exam, like reading comprehension and I'd say critical reasoning was something that I couldn't figure altogether in the beginning. Like the first 10 questions that I would have solved of both, I would have probably gotten like one right.
Okay.
Versus say math, I always thought math was my stronger point. But both my exams, I scored really well on verbal, but like my quant score was what let me down in the first attempt also, though it was not too bad.
Right.
But like what dragged my score down, and in the second attempt too, like the lowest percentile I got was quant.
Is it because you did not pay more attention to quant and a larger attention was given to verbal and data insights? Was there in
No,
during
so
your preparation?
to be honest, I feel I could have done better on stamina overall.
Right.
So the basically the strategy I used was I first did verbal, then quant, and third was data insights in my first attempt, and in the second attempt it was verbal, data insights, and quant. So I would want to believe that my quant was good enough, but given that it was second or third, the stamina that I had left by the time I reached quant in both the exams was a little bit lower, because of which in the first attempt I sort of faced an issue with time management, which was never the case in any of the mocks that I gave, never the case in any of the practice tests I did.
Hmm.
Like if I took just a quant test, I never faced that. But I feel that was where like I lacked a little bit.
Right.
If I would have developed like a little more stamina, maybe given like 5, 7 more mocks, like right before the exam or something like that, I would have probably gotten,
The
like I
first.
got 3 mistakes in quant, I would have probably gotten 2 then.
Right. So going back a little in terms of your preparation phase, 90% of people I can tell you are in the first 3, 4 months, either they are not motivated, something else comes in. It's very difficult to kind of keep up the, motivation to study every single day. So that transition from, you mentioned, one of the reason is that, your course is coming to an end. It's a 6-month validity. But what else did you do? What were you doing that 4 months? Like how every day was your preparation like? Was there a gap? And how did it transition from that to the next 2 months to finally giving the GMAT, at least the first attempt GMAT, which is also a fantastic score. A 685 is really genuinely a very good score as well. But tell me that transition that happened.
Sure. So I think to be honest, like it was quite some time ago, so I don't clearly remember. But where I reached after the first 3, 4 odd months was like I'd start getting the gist, like the basics of say reading comprehension, verbal, and quant was of course something that I liked. DI was something I feel like I barely prepared for, but like given you do it on a day-to-day basis in your job to some extent, and it's just logic finally. So that's why like it worked very well for me. But I feel initially the reading comprehension and the critical reasoning part of it, like I slowly started getting the gist of it, which is where I started enjoying it a little more. Which is what like even in my free time, I'd say that it's just an exercise to sort of sharpen my brain. It's not that I'm doing it only for GMAT, which is why like I'd say the amount like most out of the 6 months, at least for 5 months, 10 days, my practice was sort of untimed, which was like really wrong, which is why I think I suffered on stamina finally.
Right.
But that is how it went. Like I went about it. I just did it like as a fun, like an
Yeah.
exercise, just to like challenge myself, sort of, instead of sort of like preparing for a GMAT exam.
But don't you
I
think
did that in the last 1 month, I guess.
But don't you think this also is an added advantage, because you're not adding extra pressure to your
Yeah,
study?
sure. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
because I've seen more often than not a lot of students who's taking this as a challenge and more like a video game version of gamifying learning types, right?
Yeah.
They've always, they've never succumbed to the questions. They've always, taken this as a challenge and overcome that. Obviously, you have to, the last bit is to play on the stamina. That needs a rigorous amount. But I think you've done a fantastic approach, at least according to me. Just the stamina bit was to be fine-tuned in the end. But again, you've got a 99 percentile at the end of it.
Yeah, I'm really happy with my final score. No, like no regrets there. But yeah, like I would say that that was what worked very well for me. Like even when I'd just be like traveling or something like on the road, I'd just be like looking at some questions just for fun here and there. And like, it was an interesting experience that way. And finally, I think reading comprehension has a lot to offer in terms of general learning too. That's what I think Sandeep sir also talks about.
Yeah.
That like after a point, I was taking reading comprehension as reading for my own knowledge instead of solving for it. So
Right.
that also helped me sort of keep at it over the last 2 months and like get through.
Yeah, one of the things that Sir keeps telling is you can't just be reading anything, right? Not just the RC or
Yeah.
you have to really look at applying the strategy, fail at it, but at the end of it, you know why. So what strategies, what material really stood out? I mean, it's been a while since, you prepared for the exam, but if you can recall in each of the section, verbal, quant, and DI, from the material standpoint, from the video standpoint, and from the mock standpoint, what are the material content resources that you say that stood out for you? And helped you.
So I was only focused on the top, like over the period, like I only did the top one material. I did not have any time, to be honest, for any other material for that matter. I'd say like RC 700 to 800 helped me a lot during the first attempt, and during the second attempt, like I just reached out to the top 1% team to understand, can I re-strategize in some way, or what I'm doing is right and I should just continue doing that. That's where I got like the LSAT RC and CR material, and that was even more fun to solve in a way. So that was what helped me really like a lot in the second attempt, because like I had a significant break between my first and second attempt. Like
Okay.
I like my second attempt was on 30th January. I started preparing for it only on like 10th of January.
Oh, no. Oh, wow.
So yeah, I was like really confused whether I should give another attempt or should I not.
Right.
So I started on 10th, and after that I only solved like the LSAT RCCR part, and quant I was just refining on. There were a few places where I felt like I was not very confident. Say permutation combination was one part where I was not very clear, not very confident. So I was just preparing for permutation combination, the 700 to 800 question series again, and to some extent the questions on the portal. Um, I'd say that was pretty much it. Like nothing that I'd say specifically was different for me. Like I just continued with the process that was sort of mentioned in the course, right? Like I did not try and deviate a lot. And it got me good results in the first attempt too. So like I did not have any reason to sort of re-strategize in any
Right.
way.
So,
But yeah, that's the gist.
one of the things that I've seen of all the testimonial and students who got the score, and personally when we interacted, every journey is very, very unique, right? So with you, given that you were working also, right?
Yeah.
So, what amount of time was taking away from GMAT preparation, and how much time were you giving into the preparation every day to just, and how were you balancing both work and, because a lot of times, especially when you are a CA, right? And there are quarters that you have to, like the coming quarter, which is in March, you'll be so completely very busy, right? So there are different quarters for some of them where the job is super demanding. So how do you balance? How did you balance it? And did you see a break coming in between?
Also, as I said, right, in the first 4 months, I had like numerous breaks that came in between. It was work sometimes, it was some personal commitment at some point. So like I was just not very focused at that point. I was preparing as much as I could. I'd say like in the first 4 months, I'd be studying like anywhere between 4 to 8 hours a week, which was like really low at that point. Over the last 2 months, I'd say at least the weekends I'd give like at least 6 to 8 hours a day.
Right.
Given that I was a CA, giving those 6 to 8 hours is something that you're trained for while you're preparing for your CA exam. So like it's not very tough sometimes for you to sort of switch it up and say that now I study for 8 hours a day.
Right.
So weekends were like 6 to 8 hours, and during the weekdays I'd say I try and give an hour in the night or early in the morning, something like that. So that was how I like practiced overall. And over the last 1 week, like of course I give like 8 to 10 hours a day. That was how I went about it. I'd say in terms of balancing, like for the first 4 months at least, like work or a personal commitment was sort of a priority, not a priority, but like a, what do you say? Like not a conscious priority, but sort of an unconscious priority. Like I was like, oh my, I've not even scheduled my exam. There's a lot of time, so let me go for whatever. Is like let me do whatever is needed in the moment.
Right.
But after that, like I was a little more conscious. I was just like making sure that it's a 2 month process. Let me give it my best, and then let me see. And it's not that I'm going to do this for the next 2 years of my life, right? Like it's just 2 months. So like I was like, at least let me give my weekends to the best extent possible. So it wasn't that I was like studying full time, but I just tried, and like I was a little more conscious that let me prioritize my time better. To be honest, like fortunately, I did not face any significant work hurdles in those 2 months.
Yeah.
So that went very well for me. I'd suggest that if somebody has like a tough quarter coming or something like that, like they can probably strategize a little better, that you either give your GMAT before it happens or like give it way after like your quarter is over,
Right.
is what
Right.
I'd say. I think like most of the people that I sort of interacted with over the course, they were a lot more motivated, they were a lot more strategized versus say what I was.
Were you frustrated anywhere in between because you weren't, giving as much as it was, how Sir speaks, right? His language is more like, how can you, if you're not motivated, how can I be challenging you more? And, he speaks that very aggressively. So,
Correct, correct. Agreed. So I was not very frustrated, to be honest. Like I was like what I tried to do was try to take the best parts. Like I was trying to learn as much as possible. I knew that at a point, if I find my motivation myself, given that like I'd done it for CA where you are, sitting in one place and like studying for 5 months. So I was like, if I'm able to find that rhythm again at the end, once I know the basic concepts, I will be able to sort of get through with this exam.
at a point.
So I was just like taking it in bits and pieces. I was like, let me first at least understand what's required of me, and then let me give it my best shot. So I was
Right.
not like, concerned about that being motivated from day zero. Though it was like it is important, is what I'd say. Like potentially I could have probably gotten like a higher score if I would have been motivated from day zero. But like I'm happy with what I got finally.
I would want you to just reflect back on the support system that you had. You already mentioned you did hire an MBA consultant. So maybe on that, or maybe on the support that you had during your GMAT preparation from your facilitator or your faculty, or simply Sandeep sir's sessions also. So what are the things that kept your support going throughout your preparation? Like, could you highlight something specifically that kind of just really helped and boosted?
So during my second attempt, like sorry, I'm forgetting the person's name, but like he helped me re-strategize significantly. Like he was like, just focus on XYZ, focus on XYZ, and like take a mock. If you get a good score, take another mock. If you
Right,
get two good mocks, then you can just go ahead and write the exam. Don't wait for a month or 2 months or whatever.
right,
So I'm forgetting, but that person helped me a lot during that time. Even during the first attempt, like so say Sandeep sir's motivation definitely helped me a lot. Like even that my course I completed over 6 odd months, right? Like what you're saying that him trying to say that you should be motivated, etc. It was sort of uniform, right, across. So like what I ignored probably in the first 3 4 months is what helped me in the last 2 months also.
right.
So that was there. Apart from that, I'd say apart from that, like I would say that I'm not very, what do you say, not very like I'm like I sort of try and do things my way, like just finish it through my way, so that like that's how like I've done education till now, that I take whatever learning is required and then like sort of do the last bit my way. If it doesn't work out, then I like try and understand where I've gone wrong. But yeah, that I'd say was like what worked for me over the 6 9 month journey.
Janit, I mean, it's just very interesting. I really like your personality and attitude towards how you're looking at, if it works, great. Otherwise, I would like to just see where it didn't go right and wrong. Logically, you're trying to, answer it, reason it as well. Amazing attitude. So if you have to summarize everything and someone is there who is probably from the same field or just preparing for GMAT, you'd like to just summarize the do's and the don'ts. What are the few do's and don'ts you'd like to highlight?
I'd say stamina is really important because most of the people, like most of us, have sort of stopped studying for the last 2 3 years before you take up your GMAT. So I feel stamina is like really key for everyone. Like definitely work on that. Um, Number two, I'd say do not be disheartened if you do not get any one single concept. Like you will, like overall, I'd say reading comprehension, like verbal would definitely be a major uh, hurdle for like any Indian finance student. So I'd say that like just give it, like just be at it. Like I feel verbal is something which is more logical than math for me after all. And like once you get there, it'll be like a cakewalk for you. So yeah, I think I just say that maybe like what this requires is number one, being sort of timely and being persistent. I think that's what Sandeep sir also says, that like you need to be persistent across. Maybe like it worked for me being persistent for like 2 odd months. Maybe if you're a little more persistent, it definitely it's a it's a significantly logical exam. I'd say like it's not rocket science in any way. Like if you are able to sort of crack the code, it's like it definitely works for you. Like you're definitely able to get a good score.
Right, fantastic. So now you have a fantastic score. You can you can apply anywhere. So have you already applied, or are you going to wait another year to apply? And what schools?
So I'm planning to apply in round one next year
Right.
and see where it takes me. To be honest, like MBA was all like I'm still on the fence sort of as to how inclined I am towards an MBA, which is what has sort of kept me from applying in round two. Like anyway, after my first attempt, I was only eligible for round two. So I've now decided that I'll apply for round one next year and I'll see where it takes me.
What a learning lesson. I mean, it took you about a year to get your GMAT score. You focus only on the GMAT, and now give enough time to work on your application and then apply. A lot of people go very wrong in just looking at applying in the rushing through the round two, round three, compromise score, compromise application, just don't want
But
to.
to be honest, like I think another thing was I never took the pressure that oh I want to go to these 5 7 schools. I have to get the score. I'd rather I took the other way around, that if I get a good score, that's the only way I'm applying to these schools, and then I'll see where it takes me. But I
Yeah.
think I had sort of that comfort because like given I'm a CA and like I have a good enough job, so I had that sort of comfort. But like maybe not everybody has that, but like that's how people think about it. That like oh I need to get a 700s, then that's the only way I can apply to these schools, etc. etc. So like that was another thing probably that worked for me, that I never took the pressure. Like it sort of worked reverse for me.
Even if there is such goals as well, it has to be compacted. You have to
Compartmentalized,
take,
yes, yes.
you have to make it very organized. Otherwise, compromise is the only word that is there throughout, and you don't want to
Correct,
do that with so much
correct,
time
correct.
left.
Yes.
It's fantastic, Janit. Thank you so much for joining in. I had such a
Thank you.
fantastic time talking to you. Lovely attitude. I would like to keep you connected and see how you progress. And big congratulations again from all of us from the team, from Sandeep sir, from the faculty, and wishing you that you crack the best of the school. We'd like to be informed about the same as well, because we are
Sure.
clapping the most and being very, very, we are really humbled here that, you gave us a chance to be a part of this journey.
Oh no, it was like significant. Like I think the course is structured in such a good way that you do not need to think about a lot left, right? Like I feel a lot of people who took like other what do you say, other coaching preps, like they had to think a lot, I guess, that whether I'm doing this right, whether I'm doing that right, like how should I go about doing this? But like given that I was just like I sort of had tunnel vision here that I'm just going to go with the course, which worked great for me, is what I'd say.
Fantastic.
But yeah,
Fantastic.
thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thanks for joining in. You have a lovely weekend today. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.